This is Balancing Chemical Equations Worksheet 3, and we're going to work through the odd problems right now. And I may not do all the odd problems because once you've had some experience with converting the equations and balancing them, I may just go with converting the equations so that you can double check that and leave it to your balancing things for yourself. So let's work through the first one. So the first thing, I'm going to just talk through my thinking on them. The first thing I look at, I have zinc plus nitrogen will yield zinc nitride. So zinc is a monoatomic element. Brinkelhoff, there's no Z. So there's zinc. Plus nitrogen. Nitrogen is Brinkelhoff, there's an N there, so it has to be written N2. Zinc nitride. Element or compound, this is a compound. Zinc is a metal, and nitride, IDE, means that we've got just the element. So zinc has a +1 charge. Nitride would be just nitrogen with a -3 charge. Crisscross the numbers on my charges, and it would be zinc 3, nitrogen 1. And that's the word formula. I'll leave it for you to balance. This is a pretty simple one. When you've got everything balanced, you should find that the coefficients in front of your reactants are 6, 3, and the coefficient in front of the product is a 2. Remember, in order to get credit for this question, you need to show your work, which is where you've done the tally system. This is number 3. So for number 3, we've got potassium hydroxide, element or compound. Well, obviously it's a compound. And then I have to say, is it ionic or molecular? Well, potassium is a metal. Hydroxide is a polyatomic ion. So this is going to be one where I have to balance off the charges. Here's the hydroxide ion. And let's just put these together. They balance off just the way they are. Potassium oxide, another ionic compound, and water. Now I have a couple choices here for water. I could write water as H2O, or I could write water as HOH. It really doesn't matter which way I choose, it's just that I need to be sure I choose one or the other because I'm either going to break apart the polyatomic ion or I'm going to just count hydrogens and oxygen. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put these together just so I can get this balanced. And I'm going to choose to go H2O. To balance this reaction, I'm going to write my elements down. Well, if I look at this side, I've got OH, a polyatomic ion on the reactant side. I don't have that listed on the other side. So typically what I'll do is I'll say, nope, I'm not going to use the polyatomic ion. Instead, I'm just going to keep track of my oxygen and my hydrogen. So now, the same way we always do, I'm going to add them up. I've got one of each on this side. On this side I have 2. Oxygens I have 2. And hydrogen I have 2. So by taking and looking at this and saying, okay, if I put a 2 here, update my totals, and I'm balanced. So the only coefficient I need to put is the 2 that's in front of the KOH. All right, this is number 5 on our sheet, and I'm going to go ahead and work this problem. The first thing I'm going to do is ask myself, is this an element or a compound? Obviously, it's a compound. So silver is Ag with a +1 charge. Carbonate is CO3, a -2 charge. Iron is Fe, and then of course the Roman numeral 2 means we've got a +2 charge. Acetate is C2H3O2, and then I'm going to go right across and I'm going to do the iron, Fe with a +2 charge, and then the carbonate, -2, and silver with a +1 charge, and acetate. There we go. Now I'm going to put these together. Obviously I've got all compounds here. They're all ionic compounds. And let's see what this ends up being for the formulas. -2 charge on that, so I'm going to need to have 2 of the silver. Looking at my charges, this is a -1, and that's a -1. I forgot to write those things down. And I'm going to look at these, and I'm going to need 2 of those to balance it off. And only 1 of the iron. These are going to balance off just the way they are, a -2 and a +2. And my silver and acetate are also going to, charges are going to balance. There we go. All right, so go ahead. This is the way you would write the formulas. I'll show you what it looks like balanced. Remember, you've got to show your work in order to get credit for any of this problem. Okay, so the only one that needs a coefficient in front of it is just this on the product side. We need to have a coefficient of 2 here to get everything to balance out. Remember, you have to show your work to get credit for the question. All right, number 7. This is obviously a covalent compound because we have a metal and a nonmetal. Sodium has a charge of +1. Iodine has a charge of -1. Magnesium. All right, magnesium has a +2 charge, and chlorate, ClO3, has a -1 charge. And then magnesium, iodine, so that's got to be the element iodine with a -1 charge. And then my sodium, chlorate, -1. Okay, I've got all my charges. Now I can put together my formulas. And there we go. This is the last one I'll do. You should be able to figure out the rest. You should be well into the habit of how to name these things.